My name is Jason. Jason is Greek for healer. I want to heal you. I want these videos to heal you. Some of the important ideas that Keynes introduced us to that we need to keep in mind. This is a brief summary and then followed by a real-world application. Keep in mind the distinction between the real wage and the money wage. Keep in mind the idea of purchasing power, real goods, things that you need to survive. Think about utility, the usefulness of. So your labor, your ability to pick up a box and move it from here to there for someone else for pay does not have as much utility as a pile of money. And so that's the wonder of modern economics, right? And capitalism and markets generally, is that you then find someone to pay you to pick up a box and you move it and you take that money, and that money has a greater utility because you can use that money for any number of things. So real wage, money wage, utility, what determines the actual employment of available resources within an economic machine. And what's been helping me in my life is you can think about that just as yourself. What determines the actual employment of the available resources that I have under my control? But these are the questions that Keynes is asking with respect to economic systems generally. So I went to Reddit and I just found a wonderful article from the Huffington Post about this future guy, Dr. Moshe Vardi, right? And he's talking primarily about self-driving vehicles and the economic implications of self-driving vehicles. Huge. Absolutely huge. So there is no greater reduction in money wages than to lose your job. So if you have some kind of an employment and you lose your employment because of a robot, then you have now joined the ranks of the unemployed. And if you're willing and able to work and you've just lost that job, then you are pushed out into the market to find another job. This gentleman, the scientist here, points out that yes, in fact, there are many jobs that go to China. I was going to make a video on the GOP town halls here in South Carolina, but it's just ridiculous. It's useless to make a video. Nothing to say. It's just so ridiculous. But if you listen to Donald Trump, all the jobs are going to China. But if you listen to Dr. Moshe Vardi, he makes the point that many of the jobs have stayed here in the United States are just done by robots. And there are economic implications for that. There are political implications for that. And so in Keynes's terms, if you're going to read Keynes and you're going to use his ideas to help you in your life, you can think about what is a greater reduction of money wages than to lose your job. So you're working in a job, you just lost your job to a robot. That's a greater reduction in money wages. The cost of living, your real wage is going down because the cost of living is going up. And so you're forced into another job that maybe makes less money. And so he pointed out that many jobs have stayed in America, but they're being done by robots. I thought that was very interesting. And then also, too, and he talked about the governing laws but there was one, it's just right out of what my last videos were. Here it is, and this is a quote. It says, "Our current economic system requires people to either have wealth or to work to make a living, with the assumption that the economy creates jobs for all those who need them, period. If this assumption breaks down, and progress in automation is likely to break it down, I believe, then we need to rethink the very basic structure of our economic system." So that's huge, and that's how Keynes's ideas can pop up for us in the real world. Here we are talking about robots and automation and loss of jobs, loss of purchasing power, but you have citizens that are left over. And it causes you to ask the questions that the GOP does not want you to ask, namely, why do we have a government? And it can lead you to some uncomfortable places. And this article makes a great argument for a non-Fox News, non-Bill O'Reilly, non-Peter Schiff, non-Austrian economics approach to the world. Because, as this scientist and as Keynes has pointed out, if the assumption that the economic machine can create any job for everybody who needs a job, if that assumption breaks down, then boy oh boy. And all of this is to say nothing about Joseph Stiglitz's work, which, as you continue on in your researches, you should check him out. I'm working on it myself, where he's got these 5 wonderful assumptions for free markets. So, for example, if you cannot, as an economic actor, purchase insurance against every conceivable risk that your economic transaction could incur to you, then a free market can't exist. So if you were purchasing a car from someone, you should be able to, well, let me put it this way. The free market does not exist in the used car market. Free market does not exist in the new car market. And there are 5 conditions for a free market to exist, and Joseph Stiglitz has worked out logically and stuff how he's proved it, much the same way that Keynes and Mansur Olson have proved their conclusions, until they're disproven. But in the car market, you got it's not a free market. And you should be able to buy insurance against every conceivable risk that economic transaction exposes you to. And if you cannot purchase insurance for those kinds of risks, then you cannot have a free market, period. And so how valuable would it be to people if they could say, go to an insurance agency and say, okay, I'm willing to pay you $750 for the next 21 days, and I'm going to buy this car. And I'm going to buy a car within 21 days. So I have this insurance policy that can lapse. I'm going to pay you $750. And if there's anything, and you go through and there's a policy for this and it's all worked out, but if there's anything about this transaction that isn't quite kosher, just forget about it, right? You've hedged your bet. It's cost you $750 to possibly not own a lemon, and the insurance company has its own motivations to do or not do business with who you are thinking of doing business with. So there are many interactions that can take place there if such a policy could be purchased, but such a policy cannot be purchased for many reasons. To say nothing of the fact that whether or not you should or need to own auto insurance is a state-by-state variable. So all of a sudden we see you take these Keynes ideas and start thinking in your mind and burping and blowing smoke.